on the fifth power center, the politician. Make Joe so uncomfortable that he has no option but to advocate for this bill. Now, structurally, this is how it works. I mean, I've spent my entire life in this city. I know it very, very well. Perhaps much more than I ever wanted to. Once the heat gets turned up on Joe in the 10th District of Ohio, and I don't care whether he's a Republican or a Democrat, he's going to go crying to the party in Washington and go, there's something going on out there. We don't know what it is, but whatever it is, the people want it. The media will start to pick this up. You can cause a prairie fire to break out about this bill. The people are very disillusioned. They're very sad. They're very worried. Even people who have jobs are very afraid they're going to lose their jobs. They're going to lose their house. Their kids are never going to get a decent job. And they're worrying with good reason. And they look to Washington and they see no solutions whatsoever forthcoming from the city. In fact, many politicians appear to think that there isn't even a problem to begin with. You need to let them know there is a problem to begin with, and they need to pass this bill. So, you collectively approach this politician from 4 different sides to pressure him. You do yourself, the businesses in your area, small, medium, large, huge corporations, depending on where you live. The trade unionists perceive that it's in their interest to rework the role of the trade unionists for the modern era. The trade unionists are not going to function the way they have in the past, but if they redesign the way they market themselves to business, they will continue to be very, very powerful. Now, I'll mention as an ancillary that this is a day in which a very stressful election is being taken place in Wisconsin, in which the governor is being recalled and a fellow is trying to take his job. The unions have been very active. That is their area. I do not know what will happen in that election tonight. But whether the unions are successful in having the governor removed from office or not does not materially change the fact that the unions have to adjust to the modern era. So does business. Business can no longer be, I'm the boss, you're my slave, do what I say. Because business needs you. You're a precious commodity to the boss, because if you leave his office, he loses his tax break. So this turns the boss-worker dynamic on its head. The boss needs you more than you need him. And this is what you need to integrate into your mind. But the passage of this bill makes the worker the most important element of the business. The worker. The boss is still the boss, but the boss's primary concern is that you don't leave so that he can get the tax rate down. He will give you a marvelous package. By definition, he has to. He has to take care of your health care. All of it. 100% free. He has to give you a retirement program like they used to have in business very recently. And he has to give you good pay. What is good pay? This will work itself out in 2 ways in the marketplace. Competition with other guys who want you to work for them. Okay, so you're in a negotiating position. And once again then, the trade unionists can act as referees and interlocutors between business and the workers. I want to stress that while the politicians must do this act, sign this bill, sign this law, this is really not a political program at all. Once they do that, the horse is out the gate. The businessmen, the workers, the unions, and the churches need to redesign the way work is conducted and compensated in the United States. The politicians will have a very, very limited role after they pass this bill it will then be where appropriately ought to be the focus of concentration, the focal point of American enterprise will be in business with the workers, with the unions, and with the churches who are fully capable of advocating for moral issues, treating the workers properly. So this is what I need from you. I have designed the bill. It's simple. Anyone can understand it. I need you to make yourself very familiar with the bill, print it out, carry it around, go to your friends, tell them about it, have it translated into Spanish and all manner of other languages so that everybody can hear about the bill and know what it is, and encourage them to bring maximum pressure to bear on the congressmen, the senators, and the president by extension, and the people that are running against the president, the senators, and the congressmen, to advocate for this bill. Social change, true social change, only comes about through advocates. You must advocate. You must become part of a team. And this is what I am trying to construct here, is a team which has one purpose and one purpose only: to pass this bill before the November elections, because after that politicians go back, as we've discussed, to not caring about you at all. But right now they must. The president must, the man he's running against must, the senators must, the congressmen must. They must pay attention. Frankly, if you bring enough pressure to bear, they'll pass any law you want. Okay? I live in a city, Washington, D.C., which is a very, very odd place on many levels. And I think there probably are more PhD economists in Washington, D.C. And they know all about economics. They've got their doctorate. Some of them might even have in their pocket a prize from Mr. Alfred Nobel for economics. But I have to ask you, what do all these PhD economic fellas running around in Washington, talking on television, working in the Capitol Hill, working in the White House, working in the think tanks, what have they done for your economic condition? And the answer is a resounding, they haven't done anything at all. So, they have their PhD, they have their Alfred Nobel Prize in economics, but what functional use are they on the ground in which economics is only about one thing? Sometimes I'm curious as to why you have to get a doctorate in economics in order to understand it. Economics is about incentives. That's all it is. Incentives, seeing how incentives interplay with one another. If I go into the store and I see a pair of shoes and I want to buy shoes and I give the gal behind the counter the money for the shoes, both of us have reasonable expectation that this transaction will go off as it appears. So, economics equals incentives. The knowledge of that, coupled with the centers of incentive power, the incentive power bases are the ones we've discussed: politics, business, workers, trade unionists, and men of the cloth, preachers. I don't care what religion. Your incentive is to get a good job. The boss's incentive is to not pay taxes. The politician's incentive is to get elected. The trade unionist's incentive is to remain viable in the new American work world. The churches have the incentive to be the moral beacon that they are supposed to be when there is dire poverty and structural unemployment in this country. So, those are the incentives that should drive these groups to pass this bill. You need to bring pressure on the incentive power centers that we've named to get this bill passed. It is not difficult, it is not impossible, it is not complicated. just as economics is not complicated. Can't imagine why a guy has to sit in school for 16 years to get a doctorate in economics. Economics is about incentives. That's it. How incentives work. A boss hires you and pays you a certain amount of money, and you say, I can't live on this money, so I can't work here. His incentive, if he wants you to work for him, is to pay you more money. Your incentive is to get money so you can live and take care of your family. That's it. It's no more complex than that. In Washington, everything is so complicated. They will tell you this if you ask. It's so complicated. We live in a global environment. The economy is globalized. De-globalize it. America can bring all of her jobs back home immediately if you sit down with a businessman and go, listen, what you're having made in China and India right now, you can make here in the United States, pay the people more money, and lose no net benefit. The businessmen understand this. They can do the math in their head. That's why they're businessmen. They have to be sharp. They know how to calculate money, pros and cons. I don't have to pay any taxes, and I have to take good care of American workers, and I have to bring the jobs that now reside in India, China, wherever, home, repatriate them, and give them to American workers, and I don't lose any money. They'll do it. They'll absolutely do it. So, I want you to understand how incredibly powerful you are as a citizen of the United States in your home district for the next 4 or 5 months. During that time, the congressman will be permanently parked in your district